Hello. The snow is tall, tall as bricks, tottering and about to be effaced with this, I can hear it, siren of the city with its big trucks and huge curved steel beamed shovels to do business, to do tax business in the immediate vicinity. Also, in this frame will be a discussion about the parable of the soils, again, and almsgiving, but in a broader context than what my hands can do. And taking into account the work of Christos Yannaras indirectly, and the idea of LARPing, which, granted, I am not very familiar with, but I am given to understand that it's a kind of transfer of energies. This is to borrow from the vocabulary of Christos Yannaras, a transfer of energies from one domain to the next, a domain which is outside the first domain. So here we could incite or invoke the incompleteness theorem from I forget the mathematician's name, Gödel, where his example is arithmetic in a first order predicate logic, robust enough to slip and slide out of the way any ambiguity with respect to arithmetic. Even in the most developed university-funded program of establishing the facts and yarning out the details, still and nevertheless, there would be a point of departure outside the tapestry, the system, which is simultaneously Mount Everest and the Dead Sea, which cannot be, in other words, explained by the intricate detail and the coherentness of the established paradigm and the vocabulary that works therein. And if he was able to do this double work, double speak with his mathematical manipulations, so too, it has been figured, outside the realm of pure mathematics, we would find the same temptation to roll all that we possibly understand into what we have experienced and explain the future thereby. But this, Immanuel Kant has said in his Critique of Pure Reason, which signaled the turn of the Enlightenment into the modern age, has been the seedbed and ground of phenomenology ever since. In the book, The Crisis of the European Sciences, which I think Frege wrote, or Husserl, one of the two, or one of their students, at any rate. Science since Bacon's time, Francis Bacon with his book, The New Organon, or The New Instrument, which was a direct reference to Aristotle and his organon, which was syllogistic, major to minor premise, and through this chain of causal refractions and refractories to arrive at some concrete conclusion that was specific, that was in accord with the eye, the ear, the nose, the taste buds even. And this specificity also being a double whammy in the sense that it also was in accord with the community as a recognizable sign of intelligibility. And this relevance realization of the fact that humans in a community share brings us to John Vervaeke as well. But Francis Bacon said, communities differ. They're not all dominoes lined up together, that if one has a recognizable sign, the others follow suit and, as it were, reel from the fact of the real. Not everyone gets the joke of reality, Francis Bacon intimated when he said, we should have little laboratories where we can do inductive research, not deductive, inductive. Guess the future from a data set, from some facts put together, so small and minute in character that we don't see them individually. We see an aggregate, like a wall of snow against the house. We see winter. We do not see the fractal snowflakes have fallen. And so the experience of a proposition was called into question, again, by Francis Bacon. And this questioning of the apparatus by which we experience our experience of reality, Immanuel Kant made explicit again with his critique of pure reason. And as I said before, the phenomenologists have taken up the mantle ever since. And instead of asking, how does the syllogism comport to physiology, they ask, how does the environment this organism has adapted itself into find its way into the animal, the observer, the interested one, through the portals, eyes, ears, nose, taste buds, feet, index fingers. How does it find its way into reliably and in extraordinary ways? And what style might we discuss this interaction of energies within? This brings us to the fork in the road of the 20th century, where on the one hand, the postmoderns said, it's all unrecognizable signs, and the communities are defrocked, debunked. So why don't we debase? With irony in the place of Occam's razor, and file away our maximalist propaganda known as critique, until mass culture reaches a sufficient level of exhaustion to not even bother walking up the stairs, but gives in from the word go. One outgrowth of this is the doomer culture on the internet. The doomer is the postmodern brought to his or her logical conclusion. But orthodoxy, with its exotic flair and traditional values, inseparably wedded with contradiction and paradox, that will not give an inch to the scientific method, but assumes its mystery in the results. And with those people walking around with long beards garbed in black, reminding us of our future, who aren't excited or prepared to make a case as to why you should join now. This leisurely taking of one's time in silent prayer with the added touch of impossible occurrence. This magnificent, ordinary experience shows its hand in the dice rolls of the matrices with eigenvalues in the Bible, in the liturgy, in the rhyme and reason of the calendar, whichever calendar you go by. And if you pay attention between the opening of the eye and the closing, day by day, you will notice here a little and there a little. And it will not add up and add up. To which we must, as St. Paul said, with vocabulary or without, admit the echo, the possibility of there being a person waiting for our knock, our question, our leaning in. And the give and the take and the waiting and the response is far more practical than opening an umbrella when the clouds are dark and screaming for release. The ground does not move, it waits. And seed, what is seed? But how does this relate to LARPing and devotion? I guess I had an idea with the title that did not manifest in the dialogue, the monologue in this case. But if you add a comment, then there will be an addition. Have a good night.